My name is Tom Martin, and I'll be moderating this morning. Our sponsor today is GLSA, which stands for Group Legal Services Association. So for those non-members who may be dropping in on the call today, GLSA is an affiliate of the American Bar Association, is a professional membership organization representing the legal services plan industry and provider attorneys. And joining GLSA is just a good way for solos and small firms to increase their business. You can check it out on glsaonline.org. So I'm very excited because we're very lucky to have Kerry Lavelle as our speaker today to talk about how to include charity in your business. We also put it out as how to include charity in your practice, but a lot of these same principles apply generally to all businesses. It's the fourth in GLSA's 2016 to 2017 all-member teleconference series, and I think it's very appropriate to have a talk about charity, given that Christmas is just 10 days away. I'm sure we're all very excited to take our trips home and be with our families, and for those of us in the north, it's gotten quite cold indeed. So our speaker, Kerry Lavelle, is a lawyer in Palatine, Illinois, and he has a thriving law practice due in part to his community give back and involvement. So he's in a great position to help us understand how to include charity in our business. Kerry began his own practice, Lavelle Legal Services, in 1989, focusing primarily on matters of tax law. Today, his firm, now known as Lavelle Law, has grown to include 24 attorneys in a range of practice areas, and he's also the author of The Business Guide to Law, Creating and Operating a Successful Law Firm. In addition to that, he's received many awards, of which I'll just give you a short selection. In 2016, Kerry was designated a top 100 attorney in Illinois by Super Lawyers. In 2014, he was recognized by the Palatine Chamber of Commerce as a business leader for contributions to the community. And in 2010, he received the prestigious Spirit of Life Award for his efforts within the community as well. With that, I'll hand it over to Kerry. If you could tell us a little bit about you.
Oh, thanks so much, Tom, and thanks for including me on the call today. Sure. Thanks for the kind words in the introduction. I'm basically an attorney running a law firm and very proud of that. We got a great profession, and it's an honor to be part of what we do. So as I started my practice very early on, I did have a commitment to pro bono. And as you know, there's pro bono is just basically doing legal work for folks in need and who can't afford legal services. And generally speaking, when you get those cases through a legal service pro bono advocacy center, they're already vetted for income issues and possibly disabilities. And we love taking those cases, and we still do. That's kind of part of all of our charge as lawyers. So from that, we went a little bit further and extended that to charitable needs. Charity is different than pro bono because it's not necessarily connected at all with the legal services. Sometimes charity is rolling up your sleeves and having participating in a food drive or a book drive or a clothing drive. And we do that on a regular basis. And I have found over the years that connecting our law office with something good in the community really sets us apart. It really has, our potential clients and our potential referral sources connect us up with something good. And it's difficult sometimes for lawyers to be connected with things that are good. It's been a really good jumping off point as we meet new people in the community and they go, oh, aren't you the firm that sort of organizes that, or aren't you a participant in that? And I go, yeah, we are. And it's really a good introduction. And I, for one, believe in it, not only for doing all the right things for the right reasons, but because it's also good business.
All right. And on your firm's website, under the philosophy, it says, that I, being you, Kerry, believe that as a business owner, I have a responsibility to commit to my local community and participate fully in the events that are important to the residents who live and work there. Um, so this is really part and parcel of your firm's philosophy. So tell me a little bit about how you and your firm do that in the community.
Sure, and you're right. I mean, it is integrated in our firm's DNA. It is one of the core pillars of what we're built on, and I will tell you that one of the very first things we started was 13, a big scale kind of thing. 13 years ago, we moved our main office out of Chicago's Loop, and while still keeping a little small office in Chicago, we moved to Palatine, Illinois. I've got a lot of clients in the food business, and leading up to Thanksgiving, I made some phone calls, like hard phone calls. You know, when you're calling a client and you're asking for a favor,
Hmm.
to contribute to what we were going to build as a food drive. And as you can imagine, and this is kind of an important part of having these kind of drives, you can get the word out and you can get a lot of whatever you're asking for, whether it be toys, games, books, food, coats, gym shoes. You can get a lot of that stuff, but you have to know how to distribute it. And that was our challenge. How would we distribute it? And it just sort of came really clear when we started this thought on the food drive. We would call the local food pantries in our townships that are right in our area and say, hey, on a Friday before Thanksgiving, if we brought you a load of food, would you be able to distribute it and put it in your system and queue for getting it to needy folks? And they were like, oh, yeah, we will. That would be wonderful, because they usually get filled up. The pantries get filled by, good-hearted folks that are dropping off food, Boy Scout troops, Girl Scout troops, various organizations that have food drives. Well, because I knew we had all these connections to clients, and also we were also going to do a drop box effort, getting drop boxes in buildings all around the town. Um, we would get a lot of food, and then we distributed it out to the food pantries. We got it right to the food pantries, and then they would get it to the people in need. That's one of our biggest efforts that we do every year. It's really successful. It's wonderful to do, and we've use that similar model with book drives. There is a second-hand store for one of the local charities that burnt down about 5 years ago. So they would take in donations of clothes and sell them very cheaply to folks in need, and that was their business model. So when it burnt down, we took it upon ourselves. Oh, and then they moved to like a temporary facility because of the fire. We took it upon ourselves to try to restock that secondhand store with clothing. So we had our own clothing drive, and we moved everything over to the that particular 501c3 charity so they could resell and stay in business. So it's always two things. It's always getting the product and then having the right distribution network for the product. And when you do that and it works, it feels great. And as I've said, and I will continue to say, it is really good business, and you feel good about it.
Yeah. Well, we'll get back to that specific point in just a second, but let's talk a little bit about the food drive, because I'd also like to provide the people that are listening with some concrete tools to be able to implement this kind of thing in their own business or practice.
Yep.
Um, and so for the food drive, some of your clients that were actually food manufacturers, was that the case?
There was a distribution facility and also grocery stores.
Okay, so some of your clients were grocery stores.
Hmm.
But you also collected food that people had donated as well in
Yes,
drop boxes.
correct. Yep.
And where did you locate those?
Good question. So we got we went to a Container Store. Actually, the very first couple of years, I called somebody that I knew in the packaging business to buy corrugated boxes, and we wanted them about 3 feet tall, 3 or 4 feet tall, in 2 by 2 boxes. So pretty good sized boxes, and people just donated them. The person I knew in the packaging business, he just donated them for us. So we got, like, the first year probably 20 of them. We then went to one of the big print stores that print off like posters, 2 feet by 3 feet posters. We designed a poster that said Palatine Food Drive. Below it was a logo of Lavelle Law. Actually, we were so committed to the charity movement. We actually have another entity called Lavelle Law Charities, which is a 501c3, where we run our charitable activity out of. So we put that logo on there, and then underneath it, on this banner, 2 foot by 3 foot banner that we scotch taped to the box, it said, "When full, call this number for pickup." So we had these boxes, and we had to get them out, and literally everyone was assigned to call 2 or 3 businesses in the area to say, "Hey, can we put a drop box for food for our food drive?" It'll go probably from somewhere around October 15th, October 20th, till November 20th. So we caught fire with the municipal buildings. The park districts all said yes. The fire department said yes, even though there's not a lot of people going in and out of fire departments, but the firemen are very contributing. We put them in some retail stores. We put them in at the YMCA, and lo and behold, I mean, it's sitting there for a month. Places where people go regularly, they see it, and folks are good-hearted folks. I mean, they want to contribute. And some locations are better than others. The one at the YMCA, we almost have to pick up 2 or 3 times during that month. It gets so full. And then we have the last day of our food drive is, like I said, approximately the Friday before Thanksgiving. We shut down work at the office at around 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and everybody sort of goes out, picks them all up, picks all this stuff up, gets all the donations from the grocery stores that we've been accumulating, and we take it out in minivans and grassroots movement to get it to the townships, into the food pantries.
Wow,
That's
that's
the program.
fantastic. So you found that the businesses who would actually have the boxes in their, on their location, that there wasn't that much friction from them in terms of, hey, a cold call and then asking them if you could do this?
At first it was a little bit, you had to be a little pushier, but generally they were fine with it. They're only folks, quite frankly, that had legitimate excuses, as I would say it, is they would say, well, we run our own food drive, or we participate in this other food drive, and that's not during this time of year. It's during, and I don't want to have food drives going on in my business all year. And that was kind of a legitimate answer. They participate with a Boy Scout or Girl Scout troop in the summertime, and that's totally understandable. But yeah, you just need to elbow your way in a little bit sometimes. And again, overall, it's not. We had them in at the hardware stores. Now that I'm kind of thinking about it, and all over town. And again, that's going back to good business. People see those food drive boxes with our logo on them. That is a good symbol of what we stand for. And that's the kind of thing I want people thinking about when they think of Lavelle Law. At least first, and close second, I want them to think about us doing great legal work. And when a referral source gives a client 2 or 3 names of lawyers that they know, I want them to be able to, if we're one of those 3, I want the client to go, well, I know that name. I know that name from the book drive or the food drive or that coat drive. I think I'm going to give them a call. And it works, and it's good business.
So you have the food drive, and so for how many years have you been doing that?
13 years.
Wow, 13 years. And do you have a notion of how many people have benefited from that? You said you give the food to food pantries. Do you know how many people they can help serve with that?
No, that's a good question. It's over 1,000, it's kind of a good story that we all just kind of live our lives in what's right in front of our nose, and I saw it with my own face. I mean, all the associates and the administrative assistants at the in the firm here, they're just all good souls, and they go along with the program. And if the boss says this is what we're going to do, this is what we're going to do, and everybody does it with a smile on their face. And then one year, in particular, we were going to the township. By the way, it's expanded now. We fill two separate food pantries from this food drive. So we were going to one in in an area called Arlington Heights, Illinois, and there were lines of people waiting, the needy folks, waiting to get in to the food pantry to pick up their couple bags of groceries. And that image of these lawyers from our office seeing that for the first time, it was a very strong statement as to what we were trying to accomplish, because now they were seeing the faces of the people who can't afford necessarily to go to the grocery store and buy the things that we take for granted so much. They saw them in line waiting for food. And the folks talked about that here at the office for a long time, and it really put a purpose to what was otherwise sort of a mechanical process of get the food, drop the food off.
Right. Well, that must have been so rewarding to see it actually go to good use and to help so many people.
It is, and it does help a lot of folks. It really does. We had a initiative last year that we thought went so well that we're going to repeat it, and it's going to become a staple here at the practice, and that was a book drive. One of my partners is involved in the Boys and Girls Clubs of Chicago, and they offer a lot of after-school programs for kids, and they need books all the time, just so the kids have something to do after school. Not necessarily hard, mathematic books and stuff like that, but just light reading books. So we went out and, again, with the use of drop boxes and telephone calls to the grade school and high school libraries and the local libraries saying, hey, what are you doing with your books? Are you going to dump a bunch of books this year? Can you put us down for holding them? And we just got boxes and boxes and boxes of books that we were able to deliver to the Boys and Girls Clubs in Chicago. Good stuff.
So it sounds to me like, although, like for me personally, I think about, what we're going to talk about today and community give back, and a lot of, when I think about it, there's these mental roadblocks that kind of jump up about, well, how difficult would it be to do that? How much friction would I get from people about reaching out and trying to start something like that? But it sounds to me from what you're describing that if you combine, a little hustle in terms of calling people up and just asking them, and along with turning other people on to wanting themselves to be part of it, like in the food drive for donating boxes or making their location available, that people really do open their hearts to this.
I think that's very true, and it's that's part of the fun of doing it. I think it really does work. If you take it on as a overwhelmingly big task, it is too much to execute on. It's too much, but you don't have to. You can start small, or you can just help out sometimes financially. We were contemplating for many years putting together some sort of a race, a community race, run, walk, and we were thinking about that, and we were just it was getting to be an overwhelming task of having to go to the police department, track out a road, a path, whether it be a 3 mile or a 10K. It was kind of pretty close to overwhelming. And then we realized while we were thinking all this through, our own park district here in the area had a 5 mile race every year, and as so my wife and I, it's on Thanksgiving morning. It's called the Turkey Trot. The Turkey Trot. So my wife and I, one Thanksgiving morning, we signed up and we just go, hey, we're going to go check this out. I want to see how they run it and see how it goes. And it was magnificently staffed with tremendous amount of volunteers. Tremendous. Like it was even a bigger undertaking than I was imagining in my head. And then I realized as we participated the first year, the immense amount of families that came out to this thing. So in the Turkey Trot it's a very kind of fun, cute event. They have a 5 mile run for, I guess, the serious runners. They have a 2 mile run walk for anybody who wants to participate. And then they have like a 100 yard or a 200 yard drumstick challenge for like the little kids that are, little toddlers. So families come and they participate in all these different races, and they're all got the park district T-shirts on, and they have the numbers pinned to their chest, as you would see in a typical road race. And I looked at my wife and I'm like, so this is exactly the kind of event that we'd want to create and be part of, because it is a family-generated event. I mean, moms and dads and kids were out there, and there were the serious runners, high school and college runners were running the 5 miles, and they were flying. And so instead of trying to compete with that event, we called the park district to become their primary sponsor. And we negotiated a deal with them, and the name of the event now is Palatine Park District Lavelle Law Turkey Trot. So we are in the name of the event, and the park district has the means and the people to coordinate all the logistics that make it really hard for a regular law firm to try to put together. And I'm answering this question in the context of when you asked, could it be too overwhelming? I mean, that's an example of us just hitching our wagon to an already existing event and just helping it along. And it's fun. I get a lot of good feedback on it. And again, it's connected with a really good family event. And we love that stuff.
Well, that sounds like a lot of fun. And I think that you make a good point. The first two examples are examples of bootstrapping it on your own with some moxie and a phone in hand to get things started. But it's also possible to partner with existing charities or events to work with them, and so together with the park district, you're able to sponsor the Turkey Trot.
Right. It is a good alternative to doing it all. And for a solo practitioner or a small law firm to start small and participate with the local school district in some event, those are really good things. We didn't do it. I actually love this one thing. One of my friends who runs another local business here in town took on a big. Are you ready for this? Shredding day or a recycling day, and he was able to block out a big area in a parking lot. And I don't know if you know, these shredding trucks will come right to your location, and lawyers have sensitive documents, and many times we have to shred those, or we want to get them through a shredding process. So the truck comes, you pull up your car next to it, you have a couple volunteers taking your boxes of papers out of the trunk of your car, you put them in this depository in the shredding truck, and the shredding truck then takes it, dumps all the paper in a massive shredding piece of equipment, and shreds everything right there before your very eyes. And in this particular recycling and shredding drive that my friend had, He was taking in car batteries, old television sets with the tubes that can't be thrown out in the garbage, all kind of batteries, dried up oil-based paint, and he had a place to put all that stuff and a system for that. So when you kind of think about helping out the community, there's no limitation, and you just these needs are right in front of your eyes. You just kind of got to go out and find it. And if the project looks almost too overwhelming, I'm sure you can get a partner somewhere along the way to kind of help with the process.
All right. With the shredding drive and the recycling, how did that work exactly in terms of giving back to the community? Like, was it the process of just, getting those things out of the community, or was there some, like, did the company that was receiving the paper provide some kind of donation of some kind to um, a charity, or how did that work?
Well, in that particular case, I was shocked actually the amount of people that have papers in their own house and in their basements that they want to get rid of. I was shocked. I literally went by with boxes of paper. It was years ago, and I actually was in a line of cars, and I was watching people pop open their trunks and have boxes and boxes of paper. Now, why did those folks, as well as me, not just throw it in the garbage? I was throwing out sensitive documents, so I didn't want to throw them in the garbage. And I was actually there also kind of like checking out this whole process because I've never heard of this kind of drive before. But I don't know that there was any cash being generated by any of this to give back to a charity in the community. It was really a community ability to get rid of stuff in their garage that they were responsible enough people to know they couldn't throw in the regular garbage, but didn't have an outlet for getting rid of it, like car batteries, like tires, automobile tires, and those kind of things.
Right.
So
So
to
sometimes,
help,
yeah. So helping the community in general, it's not always about the money or a direct charitable link, but sometimes the goodwill that's generated from it.
yes, exactly. Right. And again, from a business standpoint, connecting the law office with, or he was not a lawyer, he was a personal service financial consultant. Connecting his business with something good in the community is a real plus. It's a real plus when people connect your name with something good. And it goes, everybody can have their own sort of driver. Um, I know all about the food business because of our clients and all the connections I have in it. So it felt like a real natural to have a food drive, and that was our starting point.
Hmm.
Somebody who has an affinity for recycling might do a recycling drive. Um, it's who you are and what your passion is. And if you can make the world a little bit better place by just following your heart and whatever your passion is, isn't that the greatest thing you could possibly do, and benefit your business from that? It just seems like such a natural. Everybody should be doing it.
Definitely. And in our pre-interview, you had mentioned that there were, three pillars to incorporating charity into a law firm or any business. And I think
Hmm.
those three pillars that might help us to generate ideas of how to do this. So do you mind sharing that?
Well, what I did say was I mentioned the one early on, which is just pro bono work, and I really feel strongly about for our profession to participate in pro bono work. I have very strong feelings on how to make it work the right way. For example, I do not believe an estate planning lawyer doing pro bono work should take on a constitutional case or a land use case.
Right.
Um, I think you need to stay within your lane and in your strengths so you can do it efficiently, effectively, and give the pro bono client A-plus work. So we strongly suggest that. We're very active in our area on pro bono work. The local courthouse has a help desk, and we try to get an attorney there. It's every Friday afternoon. We try to get an attorney there once or twice a month to take it over. And I personally go over there on a regular basis. So that's the first thing. The second thing is the charitable works that we were just talking about, and those are completely non-law related, and that is just a community support area. And I've talked a lot on that, and it is kind of a very important part of our law firm and who we are. The third is really what I recently read an article in a bar journal called goodness attributes, which translates a little bit better just to social responsibility. And we incorporate to the best of our ability these things too, and that would be like waste recycling when you have that ability, using sustainable products and materials. And our biggest waster in a law office is paper, and we're trying to be a little bit more cognizant of that. And some firms have wellness programs and kind of ways just to stay healthy and make sure the firm is healthy. So that would be the third, is just sort of the social responsibility attributes that we should all have working through our firms.
Right, and I guess the third one, the social responsibility, kind of ties into that last example of the recycling and the batteries and stuff like that. It doesn't have a direct link, but it does help to create goodwill and just help the community in general.
Oh, good point. Exactly right.
Yeah. All right. So in your book, which is called The Business Guide to Law, you talk about a 5-tool attorney. Can you tell us how that relates to the community give back you've been talking about?
Yeah. Oh, great question. So the 5-tool attorney is something we've kind of developed here. I developed it at the office to really have attorneys grow in the right and correct way. The first tool, of course, is doing A-plus work. You got to be, in our business, great. You got to do really good work. There's no room for average lawyers. You got to be really good lawyers. The second is, proper billing, meeting billing goals, and sort of being able to sell your services in an ethical, fair manner. And we don't put up with people unethically billing their time, but in the same token, you have to be able to sell your services to sustain a law office. The third is marketing and being outside of the office. And that's the third component of the 5-tool attorney that has a lot to do with the things we talked about, specifically the charitable works. If I'm talking to a group of young attorneys, and the question inevitably comes up is, how do you build your practice? How do you build your practice? And there are books and books and books and books written about getting and keeping great clients. You cannot do that sitting behind your desk all day. You can do legal work sitting behind your desk all day, but you got to get out of the office to make the right connections, the right human connections, even if it is partnered with a Twitter activity or Facebook activity or LinkedIn activity or email newsletters and stuff like that. You got to get out of the office. So why not get out of the office and participate in charitable events that will connect you in the right way with the community? There's other ways of doing it. There are bar association meetings, and I highly recommend that. I'm a big believer in that. There are chambers of commerce you should be participating in. But the social responsibility and the community work is very important. It's very important. It's where you are, where other connected people, where you can go, where other connected people are located, because the people who are involved in other charitable events uh, or charities themselves are generally good-hearted people, and those can become clients, those can become referral sources, or just help get your name out there as connectors in the community to pass your name along. And I think it's kind of really critical that you utilize some charitable endeavors and efforts to try to help get your name out there in the community.
All right. Well, forgive me for asking this Scrooge-like question, and and you may have already answered it, but couldn't you use the time spent on charity to write a brief or to do other work that contributes directly to the firm's productivity? I mean, what do you say to those that might say humbug to charity?
I would say that yes, you could spend the time today to finish that brief, and you will help your business practice today, and it will be instant gratification. Getting out there in the community and doing some charitable work or community involvement will help your practice tomorrow, and the next day, and the next day thereafter, and the next day thereafter. So you always have to think long term, and the most important sustainability that we're talking about is your career and your practice. And it is a very difficult balancing act to answer this question. Okay? You are
Yeah.
sitting at your desk, you're working on a brief, and either the phone rings or your assistant comes in and says, so and so's on the line. They're a potential. They have a question. It's a potential new case.
Mhm.
What are you going to do? Working on a brief. If you say get their name and number, I'll call them back later. There may not be a later because that person is going to call the next name in the Google search or in the phone book, and you work on your brief and you bill your time and you've handled things properly for today. That call coming in could be the work for next week, next month, or next year. So you have to determine is whether or not you're a today kind of person or if you are projecting out in the future and looking for the future of your career or your practice. And I submit to you that getting out into the community with this charitable work works a long-term plan for your practice, and I really encourage it.
All right. One last question. Um, so this sounds great, and you know, I, I personally would like to start implementing some of this stuff in my own practice in business. But the question I have is, how do you find the time to do this? Like, what do you know personally? What do you do to make it possible to do all of this stuff?
Well, I I'd have to think more about that. I have I got a wonderful family. I've got four children. I don't think I ever missed a baseball game, soccer game, or a football game. Um, just yesterday, I literally went to a luncheon on a special ed recreation organization out here, and I integrate it throughout my day. It just happens. I heard a great quote, and so this is not me personally, but I heard a great quote, and that is, "You never run out of time, and you never run out of money when you're giving away your time and giving away your money to people who need it and the real needy folks in this world." And that really resonated with me. And you can fit it in, and it just happens. It just happens. And I do not work 12-hour days anymore. When I was just starting my practice, I worked long days, and when my children were very young, and they didn't need me as much. My wife would stay home on Saturday. My wife was home on Saturday, was with kids, and I'd work on Saturday till about 11 o'clock. Um, 11 a.m. I'd come in really early, and I work about 4 hours on Saturday. But I don't do that as much anymore. I actually do it very rarely. Um, but the time comes, it fits in, and I block out time. I think I'm almost excellent on time management. If you that would be a topic for a whole nother call on time management, because it is an important art, and I've learned a lot about it. I've got strong opinions about it. But if you docket everything in your calendar in the course of the day, you can fit a lot in. Like if you look at your week next week, whether you guys use like Outlook as a day timer, and you see a lot of open space, go in and fill it up today. Go in and fill it up. That you're going to block out an hour on next Tuesday maybe to be on the internet and find out a local charity in your area that really hits home with you and touches your heart in some way. Just block out an hour. And like this webinar that you were on time for and that will end on time, you will go in that hour, stop what you're doing, and go right to the internet and start looking at these things, or looking for these kind of charities. And if you work your time management right, it's just incredible how efficient we can get. Again, not an original thought of mine, but I heard a long time ago, I wish we can all work every day like it's the day before vacation. The day before you go on a vacation, it's incredible how much work you get done. And you clean up your desk and you get everything finished and you make every last phone call. And it's because you have to. And you got everything tightly scheduled on that day and you get everything done. If that's true on a day before vacation, it should be true on every other day too, if you organize yourself properly.
Well, point well taken. I agree with you that we do find time for the things that we care about.
Yeah,
That's
right,
for sure.
exactly. And that's not a bad thing. That's very human, and I'm not knocking it. I do the same thing. I'm no different. But I do schedule time to chase down these very important issues to me too. And sometimes you can't say yes to everything. You can't say yes to everything. So whether or not you're looking to get involved in the Rotary in your area or a charitable thing in your area, these 501c3 charities, they need board members. They need helpers. And if you analyze one of them and they are meeting, once a month at 10 a.m., and you go, I got court. I got to be in court. That one might not be for you. That might not be for you. But I got involved in one time. They met once a month at like 7:30 a.m. or something like that, or 7:30 or 8 or something like that. And their board meetings were about an hour, 90 minutes long. That were perfect for me. It fit my schedule. I was able to block out those days, and I would get in. I would go to the meeting early, and it worked with my schedule. And you need to kind of get involved in those kind of things that work with your schedule. If it's evenings and you have a family that needs you in the evening, that one doesn't work for you. It's very simple. But you can find some efforts where it does work for you in your schedule. You really can.
Well, Kerry, thank you. That was a tremendous amount of really great and useful information that we can use to incorporate charity in our own businesses. And we actually got a couple of questions during the presentation that I'll read to you and give you an opportunity to give a short answer to it.
Awesome.
The first is from Ramon Robinson. He asked, since charity is such an important part of your practice, do you gauge the Lavelle Law job candidates for their willingness to volunteer and to give during the interview process?
You know what? That's a fun question. I would have to tell you, and this is no kidding, almost every job interview that we get people in raise that issue with us before we raise it with them. They're in today's day and age, these I call them kids, but they're young adults coming in, interviewing for a job. They really do a great job of their homework. They raise it with us and say, because in the interview process, you'll always say, do you have any questions about us? And they will inevitably say, you really do a lot of community work and a lot of service work. That's one of the reasons that attracted me to coming in. And then we get in a little bit of a dialogue on that exact issue, and you could tell that they're pretty good-hearted people. So the answer is we don't vet them on that issue in particular. We're proud of it, and we'll talk about it in the interview process to sort of see how they react. But at least 9 times out of 10, they raise it first. And I mean, I really smile because I really think these new millennials coming out of school, they really want to put a dent in the universe, and they really want to make a positive change. And either they're just really good interviewers who know how to get to you, but they bring it up, and I love talking about it with them.
Wow, that's great. It's also a great testament to the success of your firm in doing that.
Oh, thanks.
The next question is, if you can share with us a little bit about the wellness programming for Lavelle Law employees and how that might or might not factor into making them better volunteers.
Well, the wellness thing is something we're talking about now. We have not implemented that. We have not. We're talking about what we can do on that, and that would be part of the social responsibility and the responsibility we have to our employees. And so we don't have a great program on that. But when I told you that charitable work is one of our pillars that we build our practice on, the other one, another pillar, is really our commitment to our employees. So we really want to have a firm where people can go home at night and be with their families, and they're not working to midnight, and they're not working all weekend. So our commitment to our employees is very important, and we have a program for if an attorney cannot work full-time or chooses not to work full-time, we have flex hours. So we have a lot of sort of ability to be flexible with our folks, and the wellness program is something we're looking at now to add into that. So I can't tell you I'm an expert at that because I'm not, but we're gonna become one soon.
Thank you again, Kerry, for sharing your knowledge and some really great tips about how to incorporate charity into our own businesses. And I just want to thank everyone who called in for attending our teleconference today, How to Include Charity in Your Business with Kerry Lavelle.
Thanks, Tom, for having me. It's really a great topic, and I'm really glad that you've chosen this to sort of get the word out on this. Kudos to you and the ABA as always. These are important issues that we should be doing more of as attorneys, and I really appreciate you making this a topic for today.
Well, thank you, Kerry. I also want to give one last thank you to GLSA, that's Group Legal Services Association, for sponsoring this teleconference. Remember, joining GLSA is just a good way for solos and small firms to increase their business. So we'll see you in the new year.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Bye-bye.